Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omer Khalid Butt. Today is Monday. It's the first show of the week. Today is the 2nd of September 2024. We've got lots to discuss with you. So without further ado, this is the lineup. We'll begin with the day 331 of the Palestine-Israel conflict that has engulfed not only the region but also beyond. Although there are talks of ceasefire and there's a lot of pressure from the Joe Biden side to have this ceasefire deal accepted, nevertheless, the amount of brutality that continues to move on also is a paramount. Whether it be in Gaza, whether it be in the West Bank, the Israelis are continuing. At the same time, there is a huge furor in Israel as well, because 6 bodies of their captives have been uncovered, and as a result of it, there have been tens of thousands, or in fact hundreds of thousands of protesters within Palestine as well, who are only demanding one thing, that the ceasefire deal be implemented. And so huge pressure also on the Netanyahu government. What kind of political implications will it have on Israeli government? This and more will be discussed in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, today concerns the US elections. Now, a lot has been happening as far as the US election is also concerned, whether it be the pressure that is also fuming from the Israel-Palestine conflict on Kamala Harris and on Donald Trump, whether it be the different important issues, whether it be immigration, whether it be abortion, whether it be the other aspects of US foreign policy and national policy, that both the leaders are in the center light of, will be part of this second segment, where the elections are going and how they are moving forward. What are the polls saying about both the leaders as well? Finally, we'll be talking about life expectancy that has been reduced by 3.3 years in Pakistan due to air pollution. This has been witnessed and written in a report that was provided by the Air Quality Life Index. And of course, this not only highlights what is happening as far as air pollution is concerned in Pakistan, but also across the world, citing the different reasons behind it. Finally, we'll be talking about striking images that reveal the depths of Titanic's slow decay. A new expedition to the Titanic has revealed the effects of slow decay, with a large section of railing that is now on the sea floor. Also, they have found one of the relic that is known as Diana relic. We'll be also talking about that. Let's begin with our first segment without further ado, and that concerns day 331 of the Israel-Palestine conflict. We've been joined by 2 guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. Firstly, in the studios, we've been joined by our very known guest, and of course our regular and of course then we'll be talking about also our guest, Ms. Salama, who has joined us online. But of course, we will begin with Ambassador Naela Chohan, who is a former ambassador and who joins us in the studios as well after a brief hiatus. Ambassador Naela Chohan, thank you very much to have joined us. Ambassador Naela Chohan, Ambassador Joe Biden is going to sit down today. I mean, it's Monday, but of course we are in the evening, that's early morning in the US, with US negotiators, and will push for a hostage release deal in the Israel-Hamas conflict. And we'll also talk about the ceasefire deal, because a hostage deal is part of that. This is something that Joe Biden has been pushing for since quite a number of weeks, but to no avail, because always Israel has come up with some kind of new amendment in this ceasefire resolution, which has further prolonged this ceasefire deal from happening. Also, hundreds of thousands of people have joined a general strike in Israel, demanding a ceasefire deal, as anger mounts also on the Netanyahu government. The Washington Post is also reporting that the US is in discussions with mediating parties, Egypt and Qatar, as well, about the contours of a final take it or leave it deal that it plans to present to Hamas and Israel in the coming weeks. What's your take on all of these developments? Do you feel that a ceasefire will ever happen?
Well, we have to, because there are various aspects of what's happening in Palestine. Firstly, talking about the American politics, President Joe Biden's government has, of course, been providing arms to Israel, has been supporting. You might recall in one of our earlier programs, the visit of Netanyahu to USA.
Yes. when he addressed the Congress.
Where he addressed the Congress, which was a historic event, I think, in the history of Congress. Not many heads of states were given that privilege, and to have done so at a time when so much atrocity was being committed by the Israeli Defense Forces in Palestine in general and Gaza in particular. So, Joe Biden then became, under a difficult situation where he was being criticized by Americans. The American students had taken to streets against the American support to Israel. But having said that, why is it urgent for them to have the deal now? There are many things that we need to look at. Firstly, that American elections, the presidential elections are coming, and they want some kind of, strength for their candidate, because Kamala Harris, also a Democrat, a former vice president. So, they want something to show to their people. Therefore, the politicians need some takeaway from their activities. Having said that, what is happening in Israel? In Israel, you have to look at it in two ways. One is Netanyahu and his right-wing party's support for committing these atrocities, and the general public that is now protesting, as you said, on the streets after the killing of these 6 hostages that were in custody of Hamas, but were killed by Israeli raids.
Yes, that has been confirmed by their correspondent.
Yeah, they were not killed by Hamas, they were killed by Israeli raids. So now Netanyahu has a lot to explain for. Firstly, there was already a criticism against him that he was preferring genocide to finding a solution. Secondly, that he was prolonging the war to continue his seat there, because he is also now politically vulnerable. Although within the government, since it's right-wing led government, he is not under that stress. But as far as the masses, the people are concerned, he is now under grave criticism, which might take a toll on his political career.
Look at the number of protesters that have come out, and of course that also includes very important organizations. Coming to you, Ambassador Naela Chohan, responding to the deaths of the 6 Israeli captives, which of course the senior Hamas official Izzat al-Rashid has said that they were killed in Israeli air raids, as you have also pointed out. He says he's trying to contort all of this in favor of the Israeli government. Israel's Kat says his country is going to respond with full force. He says Hamas is responsible and will pay the full price. Also, Israel's UN envoy Danny Danon has requested an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council to address the situation of the captives which are still being held in Gaza. What are you predicting? What could happen now? Are we looking at further escalation, looking at the reaction that we've seen from the Israeli government side?
I don't think it will be an escalation as such, because they are going, step by step. They're expanding. They are killing. But these particular developments that you're alluding to perhaps will further reinforce efforts for finding solution, efforts to bring ceasefire, and hopefully efforts to bring peace.
All right.
So it is important that despite all the deaths, ceasefire is implemented.
All right. Coming to you, Ala, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, his New Zealand counterpart Chris Luxon have made a ceasefire appeal during a joint news conference in the Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur. They say we are both united in calling the immediate ceasefire, getting this around the negotiating table and finding a two-state solution as well. He also talked about prospects for a ceasefire that did not look encouraging in present. He said the only hope is to engage the United States to take a stronger stance. Will these interventions help the cause in any way? What do you expect from the international community?
What we need from international community is to put more pressure on Israel and its allies to stop this genocide and reach a sooner ceasefire, because people are killed every day, every minute. There is no safe place. There is no humanitarian zones, as Israel say. Just there is bombardment.
All right, Ambassador Naela Chohan, Israel's biggest labor union, Histadrut, has called for a general strike starting from this morning to pressure Netanyahu and secure the release of the captives held in Gaza. Hundreds of thousands of people have joined this general strike in Israel today, despite the fact that a local court in Israel has asked them to stop this this demonstration. Now, just look at all the people who are participating. There is Israeli Business Forum, companies from Israel's tech sector, Israel Bar Association, the Teachers Union, the Association of University Heads, Tel Aviv's municipality, the Manufacturers Association of Israel, Israel's opposition leader and former Prime Minister Yair Lapid. Is the Netanyahu government finally come under the pressure to maybe move swiftly towards a ceasefire deal? What's your take?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, because as yet he thought he could get away with it, and then he had full support of the right-wing parties that were also in decision making and government. But now the people that have taken to streets, as you have mentioned, it will affect Israel's economy, because as you said, the trade unions are there, the business associations are there, the journalists are there. Now Netanyahu cannot pretend or have a blind eye to what his own people are now talking about. So he, because he is a politician, because he is looking forward to extension of his mandate, he would have to succumb to the will of the people, his own people.
When you look at the international reaction, United Nations, I mean, I'm kind of shifting towards the West Bank. The UN's Antonio Guterres calls on Israel to end its operation in the occupied West Bank and strongly condemns the loss of lives, including those of children. EU's foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell says Israel's major military incursion in the occupied West Bank must not be the premises of a war extension from Gaza and a repeat of the full-scale destruction that was seen in the Palestinian enclave. These reactions, we've seen them in the past as well, coming from Antonio Guterres on other issues, on Gaza, on the loss of lives, on the on the reduction in facilities being provided to the people in Gaza, and so on and so forth. This time, will these statements have any effect whatsoever on the Israeli incursion or on the Israeli brutality?
You see, they don't bother if it is all rhetoric. They will bother when it is implemented. So at this moment, as I said before also, if United States says that it's not going to provide arms to IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, the fact of the matter is that they already have an agreement in force which is valid till 2028. So if they say they are not going to provide arms, it means it would be after 2028. So until 2028, USA is treaty bound or agreement bound to continue to provide arms and ammunition to Israeli forces to continue with their atrocities. As far as EU is concerned, you can see how France, President Macron also gave his views on it. Rhetoric is there, but what are they doing on ground? And how Israel is being supported? As yet, luckily, Iran has not responded to the attack that was, perpetrated in Tehran.
It has shown political maturity, to say the least.
Definitely, as I said before also, they are 5,000-year-old civilization. They'll take their revenge, but at the right time. They have stalled it for a propitious moment. That also is a pressure on their minds as far as Netanyahu is concerned. He knows it will come. He doesn't know when and he doesn't know where. So that itself is a stress on him. Then people in the streets are a stress. And then so-called allies are also, even if it is rhetoric, are condemning or criticizing Israeli government's activities in Palestine. So it's not that easy for him. It's not a bed of roses for him if he continues with his policies.
Final question, I'd like a short answer, ma'am. The United Nations World Food Programme has suspended staff movements across Gaza after one of its vehicle, which was clearly marked United Nations humanitarian vehicle, was hit at least 10 times by Israeli gunfire at a military checkpoint. We all remember there was an international food supply truck that was also hit in the past by the Israelis, and that created a huge furor, but of course that died down. Now that the WFP has suspended aid to Gaza, what implications do you foresee as far as food, water and all the necessary supplies to the Gazans is concerned?
This will further augment the sufferings, as you spoke to Allah also about polio. This is the first time in 25 years that polio is being recorded. The suffering is enormous, and if food supplies, there are children dying of malnutrition, Omer Khalid. It is unbelievable that those lives have not had, had living. They just had been born and they died out of malnutrition. Think of those mothers, how they are enduring that pain. How many people are dying? You said 40,793, which is almost 41, 986, almost 41,000 people have died. Almost 1 lakh people are injured.
And we
Homes
don't
have
know
been
how many
destroyed.
people are still under the rubble, and the final figures will come out once the war ends.
Once, if and when it does, So it's an enormous tragedy. It is a blemish for Netanyahu and for Jews all over, because this is not bringing bad name to Jews.
Of course.
Not all Jews are Zionists, but these activities of the Israeli government are bringing bad name to Jews as well. Not all Jews were bad, but now they are all, stigmatized.
That is true. But let's hope for a bright future, and let's hope that the ceasefire deal comes to fruition very, very quickly, so that some kind of positivity is seen. And secondly, let's hope that this ceasefire, whenever it happens in the coming days, also leads to some kind of sanity within the Israelis, so that we could see finally peace in the region. Thank you very much, Ambassador Naela Chohan, to have joined us on this very important topic, that is the Israel-Palestine conflict. We've been talking to you for quite a number of months now, but we are in the 11th month of this conflict, and for the moment we don't know till what time it will continue. Thank you.